All right, guys, we're going to give everybody a few more minutes to sign on, and then we'll start. Okay, guys, we're going to get started. So make sure, can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sorry. My computer's being a little goofy today. So make sure you guys have your screens on so I can take attendance throughout this entire thing. I promise today will not be super long. Okay. We're going to go over the lab that you guys have to do at home for your homework, and then what's going to be on the exam for Wednesday. Okay. So let's talk about what you guys need for your exam on Wednesday. Okay, so it's gonna be in room 260, okay, where we were that first day. You guys need to make sure that you bring a pencil, okay? It's gonna be a lot easier to work with a pencil than it is to scratch things out with a pen, and it's gonna make my life a lot easier than when I'm looking at your exams, okay? And you have to bring your own calculator, okay? If someone doesn't have a calculator, you guys have to email me before so I can make sure I get more. Okay, you will not be able to use your cell phone. Okay, I will repeat that again at the end of class today, but you guys need to make sure that you have your own calculator. Okay, all right, so throughout this whole thing today, you guys, if you have questions, just stop me. I know you guys are all probably muted right now, but make sure that you guys let me know and just unmute yourself if you have a question. So just stop it and then let me know. Okay, you guys can kind of cut me off a little bit. Okay, so for your homework, you guys should all be working on that first part of lab 2. Okay, that is correlating with the last lecture we had on Wednesday. Okay, if you guys, I know some of you have turned it in already. This is all going to be due next Sunday at midnight. So even this lab that we're talking about today, so it will be due after your exam, just to give you guys a little bit more time so you can spend the time studying on your exam. Okay, so if you guys are looking at your screens, you guys can all see the medical history questionnaire, right? Yeah, someone nod your head or say yes. Okay, I can't tell if anyone can ever hear me. Okay, so your medical history questionnaire right here, you guys are going to, in your Blackboard, there is a section in lab 2 that has 2 links, okay? It's the same exact link, but you guys are gonna have to do this twice, okay? So just bear with me. So you have this medical history questionnaire, okay? Obviously, you are going to have to choose 2 individuals that you want to do this medical history questionnaire on. It can be a family member, it can be mom, dad, brother, sister, it can be friends, it can be whoever you want. They just have to say, yes, I will do the questionnaire. You cannot force someone to do this questionnaire, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna sit down with them and you're gonna fill out this entire questionnaire. So make sure you put their name and date it. Throughout this entire thing, if somebody is uncomfortable answering a question that is on this questionnaire, because this is not real life in a lab, a fitness assessment, they do not need to answer the question, okay? We wanna do whatever we can to make sure that they feel comfortable right now, okay? So I'm just gonna take you through this really quick. It is not the same one that's in your book, if any of you guys actually have your book, but I know you don't need it, okay? So remember we talked about there's 10 components that you technically need in a medical history or questionnaire. These go through most of them, okay? So you're just gonna go through and you're going to fill out all of this information, okay, that you guys have that you can see here on your screen. Okay, some of it might seem goofy, like education, those types of things. We are just getting a base for what this individual is. A lot of places are going to ask all of this information. Okay, so as we scroll down, we'll see present medical history. Okay, so you're going to have to check everything that they say yes to. All right, other general comments they may have. Keep going down. You're going to go through every single one of these. So it seems kind of lengthy, but all you are doing is asking that individual questions, okay? And filling it in as much as you can. Like I said, if there is something that they are uncomfortable with answering, just leave it blank and denote that to the side of it so I know that they didn't want to answer the question, okay? Not a big deal. So go through all the way to the end, okay? Fill it all out. Okay, this is on your Blackboard, so you guys can look at this. And if you have some form of question on this, just ask me. But it's pretty straightforward, okay? Once it kind of gets down here to diet, it sounds a little goofy. Just estimate for them, okay? Again, we are not in a lab right now, but we just want to get a general sense as to what their diet is obviously like, okay? Continue all the way down. Obviously, guys, if you are under 21 and you're doing someone under 21, just like don't answer this, okay? Whether you have it or not, okay? Again, if someone else doesn't want to answer it, that's okay as well. All right, and then last thing is going to be physical activity. All right, so then let me bring up the other thing that you guys are going to have to fill out. Where is it? Hold on one sec. All right, can you guys all see this screen? Different? Okay. All right, so this is what you're going to fill out in response to that lab that you guys have, okay? So you're gonna go through general risk factors, then coronary artery disease risk factors, cardiovascular disease risk factors, contraindications. I'll go over all of this when we're reviewing for the exam in a second too. Risk stratification, and then whether your client or who you are interviewing should have a physician screen or test or prior to testing, okay? So you can see that there's one for client number 1, okay? And then you'll have it for client number 2. So you're gonna have to fill out both those health history questionnaires, submit those on Blackboard, and then you will fill out this laboratory 2.2 client sheet. Again, just submit it to Blackboard. It's all under the same link of the sheet that you guys were looking at on Wednesday. So it's all under lab 2. It's all there. If somebody has a question, please ask me. Okay. Are there any questions on the lab thus far? Everybody seems okay? Yes. Somebody say yes so I know you guys can hear me.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I had issues with my Zoom the other day, so I'm just checking. Okay. All right. If you guys don't have questions on this, I'm going to go over what you need to do for your exam, okay? This lecture will be posted so you can reference this again. However, I would recommend writing down everything that I'm saying because I'm basically going to tell you guys what you need for your exam, okay? Then that way, if you start studying and you have no idea what I was talking about or I confused you, you can get a hold of me and let me know what you guys need to know. Okay, let me make sure I have all my sheets here. Okay, so let me bring up the lab that you guys already handed in. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is the lab that you all handed in already. I believe there was 1 or 2 that maybe did not, but I'm not going to show you guys all of it. So, okay. Your exam is going to have about, I believe there's 3 areas and charts that you guys are going to have to work with, and you are going to need to make all the calculations. So with that being said, first thing first, I will give you guys the actual exam on paper, okay? You guys will be filling this all out. With that being said, if you guys need extra paper, I will give you extra paper. Otherwise, you can use the backside of your test. So for all of these conversions, I know some of us somewhat did it in our labs, some of us did not. So I had to sit there and kind of figure out where you guys made that mistake. My brain was about to explode. For your exam, you have to show absolutely every single step, okay? I want to know that you guys can understand what you are doing, okay? That way also, if you actually write down what's going on and the steps that you are taking, I can see where you goofed up, okay? I don't want to go to the end and be like, oh, you guys got the complete wrong standard deviation, everything is wrong, okay? A lot of the times it could just be one little addition problem or one little step was off, so it skewed your results, okay? In that aspect, then I can just take off a little bit of points. It doesn't have to be a lot of points. But you guys are gonna need to show me your work also enabled to get points. Okay, so you are going to need to know the SI conversions to get to meters, okay? And then the SI conversions to get into kilograms. Who can tell me how we get from feet to inches to meters? Anybody?
Going from like the pounds and inches, don't we multiply it by 0.254?
Yep, you got it. Okay, so remember, if you have feet, you have to convert those first into inches. Okay, so you guys know you have 12 inches in a foot. Okay, once you have the inches, so when we are in this area, when you guys have all your data that will be presented to you, all you are going to do, okay, is multiply this by 0.0254. Okay, that is your conversion from inches into meters. How do you guys go from pounds to kilograms? Anyone else?
Divide by 2.2.
Divide by 2.2. Okay, so when we are on weight, okay, we're going to take this number, we're going to divide it by 2.2, and then that is going to give our values down here. Okay, so that's all you guys need to do for those conversions. Okay, so you're going to have questions that are going to ask you to convert certain data, okay, and then you are going to come to certain charts and it's going to ask you the same thing. It'll all be self-explanatory, and obviously I'll be there if you have questions. Okay, so this is the first step if you guys are going to work towards that standard deviation. Okay, if you guys see that these values, and I wrote this on a lot of your labs, okay, these values are all rounded to 2 decimal points. Okay, that's what I want you guys to do on your exam. Okay, if we don't and we round it to 3, you're getting close enough to the same answer, but it is not the same answer. And it has to be uniform throughout your entire lab. Okay, so obviously you guys know how to round. If the number, the third number is 5 or above, then you're going to round up that number. Okay, if you guys are confused on that, just ask. Okay, so do we have any questions on the first part of how this is going to work? No, we're okay. All right. You guys can always email me if you need. Okay, so then it's going to go down to this part down here, just like your lab was. Okay, you're going to need to write the mean. All right, so how do we get the mean? What do you guys do? This is like grade school stuff. Somebody tell me how you get the mean.
Add up all the numbers and divide it by how many.
Isn't the mean just the average, add them up and divide it by 5?
Yep,
or
you guys got it.
whatever the number is.
Right, so we had a few of the same answers. Good. So you're going to add up all the values. Sorry, we're down here. We're adding up all these values, and you're going to divide by 6 because that's how many subjects that you have. Okay, so that's how you get your mean. Do we remember how to get the median? Because a few of us kind of screwed up how to put the data into place. Okay, I'll just tell you. If you looking for the median, okay, if you guys have data such as all of this, in order to get that median, you have to put all the data from smallest to largest. Okay, then it's going to be your middle number. So if you have an odd number of subjects, it's always going to be your middle number. If you have an even number of subjects like we have right here, you are going to take the two middle values, add them up, multiply by or divide by 2, and then that gets you your value. Okay, so you guys have to remember that if you have even values, find the two middle numbers, add them, divide it by 2, that's going to give you your median. Okay, all right, questions on that, or we can move forward? We're good? Okay, so then if we go down to mode, mode simply put is the number that occurs the most. You are not always going to have a mode. If you do not have a mode, if you see down here, all you're gonna write is NA for not applicable, okay? You can have one mode or you could have 3 modes, okay? So if 2 numbers occur twice, then you're gonna have 2 modes, okay? Sometimes you won't have any. Most of the time you'll just have 1. Other times you'll have more than 1, okay? You can have 3 modes, you can have 4 modes. It just depends on the amount of data and what you guys are measuring, okay? Any questions on this stuff thus far? Kind of okay? All right, so then when we move down, so now you guys are gonna have a chart like this. So this is where your standard deviation calculations come into play. And I wanna walk you guys through this because for the most part, you guys did a very good job on your labs. There are a few like minor mistakes, but this is why we're gonna talk through it because this is going to be the majority of your exam, okay? So you're obviously gonna take your SI unit values, okay? And you're gonna put them down in your charts, okay? So this one's height, weight, okay? So that's what the X stands for. That's the subject, okay? That's the value of the subject. Once you guys, this stands for this value minus the mean, okay? So this is why you guys have to make sure that you find your mean, all right, for height, weight, okay? For both males and females or however it's going to be on your exam, okay? So what we're doing here is we're basically taking these values and subtracting, what is the median? 1.82, okay? So I subtract 1.82 from 1.8, I subtract 1.82 from 1.85 or 1.84, okay? And then this is the value that we get, all right? You must put that value in there. You can show me your step, but then you have to actually put the answer in there so I know what the answer is, okay? We got a little confused on that on our labs. Okay, so now we're on this step. We've got that answer. We're going over to this step, okay? So basically, this entire step just means you are squaring this value, okay? So if I square this value, I get 0.0004, okay? And I continue squaring every value, and this is where I'm going to put my answer, okay? If we go down, now it says sum. I'm going to add up all of these values that I've got that I squared, put the sum down, okay? And then it's going to the step that says n minus 1. Does anyone remember what that n minus 1 stands for?
Is it the
It's depending on how many subjects you had.
The number of subjects?
Number of subjects minus 1, okay? So if we have, sorry, I know there are a few of you that were saying that answer. We have 6 subjects, okay? So we're gonna take 6 minus 1, okay? So we're gonna take that sum value and we're gonna divide it by 5, okay? A lot of you got this step right, but you forgot to subtract 1 from the number of values. So make sure you guys don't forget that, okay? So now we are here. We take that value, bring it down here after.
Excuse me, Coach Ray?
Yes, what's up?
So you said that n minus 1. So you said you take the number of subjects and divide. Oh, okay. Wait, no, man. I see what you're saying. So since it was 6, you take that sum and you divide that by 5 then.
Yep.
Right,
So we have 6 subjects. Okay. So that's gonna be where the n is 6 minus 1. So that's gonna give us 5. So if you guys had 7 subjects, it would be 7 minus 1 to give you 6. So any number of subjects minus 1, and then that's what you're gonna divide, or you're gonna, the sum, then you'll divide it by that number that you got, okay? So then that brings us down here, all right? So we have this number, and then the final step is to take the square root of that number, okay? And this is where you would get your answer. So for this one here, I know it shows, and these are not my calculations, but I know it shows 0.039, but because I told you guys to put it in 2 decimal places, I would round that up to 0.04. Okay, just to, if you do put that down, I'll see that you got the correct answer, but try to round it up so all the values are to 2. Okay, all right, do you guys have any questions on how to calculate our standard deviation and how to fill out these parts? I left you all notes on your labs that you turned in. It's kind of difficult to write the notes in Blackboard. So if I confused you or you guys do have a question, just reach out to me and I'll go over it with you guys before your exam, okay? If we are okay with this, we're gonna move forward, all right? So make sure you guys are referencing your labs, look over how to convert SI units, okay? And make sure that you guys have calculators so you can show me every single one of your steps, okay? I found some people just added something wrong, so make sure you guys look and at least double check your addition, okay? When I was doing one part of your labs, I had to do it like 5 times because I added wrong.
Excuse me, Coach K.
Yep.
So just to go over, you said multiply 0.0254 for the length, right?
First, say it again.
0.0254 times that for the length, right?
Yeah, so for height, so length,
Height.
but basically, so yeah. So the inches, you're gonna multiply by 0.0254. So that's how
Okay.
you guys get your meters, okay? And then your weight, you're gonna take your pounds and divide it by 2.2. That's how you get your weight, okay? Those are gonna be basically the SI units that you guys will need to know for your exam, okay? All right, so if you have any further questions on any of this stuff, just let me know, email me. I can Zoom with you guys before. We can talk about it before your exam on Wednesday, whatever it might be. Okay, so then let me go over a few of the other things that you guys are going to need to know. Okay, hold on one second. Let me get my news. Hold on a sec, guys, sorry. Okay, all right, so for the next part of your exam, make sure you guys are going to, or make sure you reference this PowerPoint, okay? And make sure you guys reference the PowerPoint that I put up if you were not there, and also just if you guys need to double check on things, okay? So the recording is up. So what you guys are going to need to know for your other exam, let me go down. Okay, you guys are gonna need to know general risk factors, okay? So make sure you look through this PowerPoint and think about general risk factors. So it can be lifestyle, it could be health related or medical related, okay? Things of that nature. So you're gonna need to know the general ones of that. You're also gonna need to know, let me see if I can find the slide. Oh, before I go, make sure you guys reference health history questionnaire, okay? So in that aspect, you guys are gonna need to know the 10 things that you need in your health history questionnaire. That is a question on your lab that we assigned last week, so just go over it. If you know those 10 parts of it, then you guys will understand how to find general risk factors, okay? If you have general risk factors, it can be a part of any of those 10 things that we need on our health history questionnaire. Okay, and they are simply all listed here, okay, on the slides. So make sure you guys reference this. You can go in and pause it and really see it.
If
Okay.
we don't know all of them, do we lose points?
No.
No.
You guys don't actually have to write it out, okay? You're gonna need to write it out on your lab, but you're going to need to know them generally so you can pick out your risk factors.
Okay.
All right, so just a general base of it. So just look over this slide. And then on that last PowerPoint, I put up an actual chart with all the 10 things, and it breaks it down even further into the risk factors in there. So you guys might want to review that as well. Okay. You are going to need to know absolute contraindications and relative contraindications. Okay. So let's go over that really, really quick. Okay. So when you guys are doing a health history questionnaire, you have to know those absolute contraindications, meaning they're contraindications to the fact that you cannot exercise, all right? They should receive treatment for this right away and get these under control before they even go to the doctor to get cleared. Okay, so it's things like acute myocardial infarction. So that's a heart attack within days. Somebody had a heart attack a few days ago. I don't know why they're coming to do a fitness assessment with you in the first place. I mean, so you can kind of understand these. So unstable angina, remember we talked about angina is that tightness in your chest. If it's unstable, that means they're not under medication or anything to control it. It's just all over the place. So that needs to be brought under control. And then uncontrolled asymptomatic heart failure. So heart failure is just how the blood is not, or the heart is not pumping correctly, okay? If it's uncontrolled and asymptomatic, that means they're not taking any medications or any precautions to have it under control. So having a fitness assessment could totally set this person into cardiac arrest and things of that nature. So absolute contraindications need to be taken care of immediately, okay? They need to be brought under control. Then they can go have their eval from the doctor, okay? So then, and then if we go to relative contraindications, testing is allowed for these contraindications as long as they've gotten medical clearance. So things like arterial stenosis, that's the hardening of your arteries, severe hypertension, and then high degree AV block, which is that AV node that is not firing correctly so that your ventricles aren't always firing at, or contracting at the correct time, okay? So you need to know absolute and relative contraindications, okay? So mark that down if you did not.
Are we
Go
just listing them, or do we need to give like an explanation of each one?
So you're not technically going to, I won't be giving you guys a list and saying a question, name all the relative contraindications, absolute contraindications. What's gonna happen with this section of your test, and I'm glad you asked that question because I can't believe I forgot to tell you guys this, you're basically going to get a case study, okay? It's gonna say this person is this old, they have this type of blood pressure, that type of stuff. Then it's going to ask you questions that are very similar to the questions that I just told you guys about on your lab, okay? And this is why I'm going through what you guys need to know, because there will be a question asking what type of relative contraindications do they have? What type of absolute contraindications do they have, if any? Okay, and so you guys won't actually have to remember it out of thin air, okay? You will see the case study. If there are contraindications, it'll tell you what that person has. You have to pick up and say, ooh, that is a relative contraindication. He or she is going to need to get medical clearance. Does that somewhat make sense?
Yeah, so basically the best way just to look over this stuff is if we finish the lab or two review, just to look over that.
Yep, you guys will be okay. If you guys go over this and you review the PowerPoint from last week and you guys go over the questions and stuff on your lab and understand what it's asking, you'll be fine. Honestly,
Okay,
it's nothing out of thin air, I promise, okay?
Okay.
All right, so the next thing you guys are gonna need to know for your lab is coronary heart disease risk factors. If you guys have a pencil and a pen, write these down because you don't have a slide on it, okay? And there will be a question on this. Okay, so risk factors are things like age, okay? So after the age of 45 for males, you are at higher risk of heart disease. After the age of 55 for females, you're at a higher risk of heart disease, okay? So that's one risk factor, okay? Sex is another risk factor. Males, you are at higher risk than females. It's just how it is, okay? Family history, that would be if you have a first-degree relative that has had some kind of coronary artery disease or heart disease, okay? So first-degree relative is a brother or sister, okay, or mom and dad. Those are your first degree relatives. So if they have had heart disease risk factors, or if they have had a heart attack, if they have some type of heart disease, that is a first degree relative. If they have that, then that means you are at a higher risk, okay? Diabetes is a risk factor. So if you have diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, that is a risk factor. Obesity is a risk factor. So obesity means if you have a body mass index of 30 or higher, okay? So that's what obesity is, okay? So remember that number, 30 BMI higher, okay? If you are considered overweight, you have a BMI between 25 and 30. Okay, that's going to be important in your exam. All right. Another risk factor is blood pressure. Okay, so we talked about the American Heart Association last lecture. That's a good website for you guys to reference. Okay, so typical normal blood pressure is 120/80, but according to the American Heart Association, it's lower than that. That would be normal. Okay, so then considered hypertensive stage 1, so that's high blood pressure. Okay, it could be anywhere between 130 to 139/80 to 89. You guys will need to know those numbers. So when you know what the blood pressure this person is in your case study is, you know whether they are hypertensive, if they are severely hypertensive, anything of those nature. Okay, if you are severely hypertensive, if you are 140 or over, 140/90 or over that. Okay, does anyone need me to repeat those numbers? No.
Yeah, can you repeat the what was it? 139/80 to 89 is normal.
Yep, so normal is considered 120/80 or below. So then hypertension stage 1 is 130 to 139/80 to 89. Okay, so then pre-hypertensive, meaning you're right before you're actually considered to have high blood pressure, would be 120 to 129/80. Okay, and then high hypertension is considered anything 140/90. Okay. And then the last thing you guys are going to need to know for heart disease risk factors is cholesterol. Okay, so remember, LDL cholesterol is our bad cholesterol. HDL cholesterol is our good cholesterol. Okay, so it's considered bad if you have an LDL of 130 or higher. Okay, so LDL is your bad cholesterol, and if you have a number 130 or higher, it's considered a risk factor. Okay, HDL is your good cholesterol. The normal range for that is 60. Okay, in order to be considered to have good cholesterol, you want that number to be higher. So a risk factor though for HDL would be any number lower than 60. Okay, so you guys have to remember LDL 130 or higher is bad. HDL 60 or lower is bad. Okay, and then you're also going to want to know the total cholesterol number. So if we add up our HDL and LDL, you want to be at 200. Okay, anything over 200 for total cholesterol is considered bad and a risk factor. Okay. Any questions on that? It's all pretty straightforward. I know you guys have had this before, so if you have questions, just ask. Okay, you'll need to know lifestyle risk factors. Okay, so that's anything that you can actually control. So smoking, whether you've quit within 6 months or not. Okay, diet, what's your diet like? That's why there's all those diet questions on your health history questionnaire. Okay, whether you exercise or you are a sedentary individual.
Coach K,
Yes, what's up?
I don't know if it's just me stressing out, but I've never heard, like, this is not what I do, so this is just an elective. So I'm stressing out. Do I have to know all and memorize all these numbers within the next 2 days?
So the numbers you guys need to memorize are your cholesterol numbers.
What about the I've never heard of any of these terms, so I'm struggling to like understand what's going on.
Okay, don't freak out so much. So I'm going to tell you guys straight up on your case study, they're going to tell you this man's blood pressure. Okay, they're just going to give you a number of what that is. And then there's a question later that's going to ask about that. And you're going to have to know whether it's within normal range or it's high.
Okay.
So if
is this test is it worth a lot? Like if I bum out on it, am I going to fail the class?
You won't bum out on it, I promise. You're probably getting more scared than you should.
Yeah.
I promise. If it comes to the point where you guys are like totally confused on that, I'll help you. Okay. I want you all to remember, and I'm just telling you, anything above 130/80 is going to be considered high blood pressure. You are going to be hypertensive. Okay. So if you have to remember anything, just remember 130/80, anything higher than that is hypertensive. Okay. Don't worry about all the other little ones. Okay. And for cholesterol, because I'm looking right at your exam right now, you do need to know LDL needs to be 130 or lower. HDL needs to be 60 or higher. Anything different there is bad. And if you have a total cholesterol number 200 or greater, that is bad. Literally, that's all you guys need to know about that. Don't freak out. All right. And all you need to know for lifestyle risk factors is smoking, diet, exercise, stress. You don't have to know any numbers about it. That's all I'm going to tell you because that's all you're going to need. Okay. A lot of it is reading this and just picking up if something is actually a risk factor. You guys can absolutely do that when you see this. Okay. And then the last thing that you are going to need to know is how many risk factors do you guys have to have? So heart disease risk factors that would cause you to have a doctor see you before you can do a fitness assessment. Does anybody know? I told you last week.
And just one?
Just one. If you've got one risk factor, you are going to get a doctor evaluation. Okay, so that's one thing you guys need to know. All right, one risk factor, doctor eval. Okay. Once you get into more risk factors, okay, you have to know whether you are low risk, medium or moderate risk, or high risk. So let me share my screen and I will get you guys, hold on a second. I will tell you what I'm talking about. Hold on one sec. No. Hold on, it's not working. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Okay. Can you all see this? It says risk stratification. Yep. Cool. All right. So I want you guys to go over this chart right here. It is not in your book. You don't have a printout. It is in this lecture. Pause this screen. Okay. It is in the lecture that I did on Wednesday. Okay. You will need to know whether someone is low risk, moderate risk, or high risk. Okay. So if you are low risk, okay, you have one risk factor or less, so no risk factors, and you are asymptomatic. If you are asymptomatic, what that means is you have no symptoms whatsoever. You could have high blood pressure, but you don't actually have a symptom of it. Okay, so that is one risk factor, asymptomatic, you're low risk. Okay, if you are moderate risk, again, you are asymptomatic, meaning that you have no symptoms, okay? But you have two or more risk factors, okay? If you are high risk, that means you are currently diagnosed with something like peripheral vascular disease, diabetes mellitus, asthma, God, I can't today, sorry. Constructive pulmonary disorders, things of that nature. If you've had a heart attack, anything like that. You will also be symptomatic. So that means you actually have symptoms. So even if you only have one thing going on with you, but you have symptoms, you are considered high risk. Okay, so it's things like heart murmur, unexplained fatigue, dizziness, swelling of ankles, tachycardia. Remember, that's that super fast heartbeat or an irregular heartbeat, unexplained shortness of breath. These are all risk factors if someone tells you about it, you know that they are symptomatic. Okay, so let me go over it one more time. Low risk factor, no symptoms whatsoever, but you have one risk factor. Moderate risk, again, no symptoms. So you are asymptomatic, but you have 2 or more. Okay. And then high risk means you are currently symptomatic, regardless of the amount of risk factors that you have, and you are currently diagnosed with some type of disease, some type of coronary artery disease, heart disease, pulmonary disease, all those types of things. Okay. Any questions whatsoever on that? So basically with this risk factor stratification, you're going to have to take that case study. You'll figure out how many risk factors they have. They will state everything in there. Okay. And then they'll say, what risk stratification is this person in? So if you know what these mean, you'll be able to get it right. Don't overthink it. Okay. All right. So that's basically all the materials that you guys need to know for your exam on Wednesday. Okay. If you guys are worried, don't be that worried, okay? It's a lot of things that I'm telling you guys, but it's not going to be anything you did not do or we did not completely cover just now, okay? I'm not gonna throw something at you that is completely out of left field. So the homework on the labs that you guys did with all the standard deviation, go through it, look at my notes, look at these PowerPoints or videos, whatever you wanna call them, okay? And make sure you know how to do every single step, okay? They're all steps you guys are perfectly capable of doing, okay? And must show me your work so I know what you guys are doing. So that's gonna have to be written on it next to the paper or next to the chart, or you guys can just do it on the backside. I'll tell you guys all of that on Wednesday as well, okay? And then the last part of your exam, you're gonna have a case study, okay? Let's call him Bill. Bill has this high blood pressure, Bill has this BMI, Bill smokes or doesn't smoke, Bill has had a relative that has had a heart or some type of heart disease or not, okay? This is what it's going to tell you, okay? Then you're gonna have to answer questions on it. Look at the lab I described today. Those are going to be exactly the type of questions that this case study is asking, okay? So if you look at the lab, you have questions about it, you don't know what those answers would be, okay, let me know and I will explain it. That is all that is on your exam, okay? So you guys have from noon to 1:30, you probably will not need the entire time, okay? I can tell you that you have 3 charts, okay? They're not as large as the charts that we did, okay? So you're gonna need to know how to do your calculations. You're gonna need a calculator. It's just tedious, okay? But it's nothing crazy, nothing you haven't done. And then literally 1 case study question. That's it.
Excuse me, Coach
Yep.
K. What did you say that stuff was that we were supposed to write down? I found the pencil.
Which one? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You said it wasn't on the slide and we were supposed to write that down?
So it wasn't on, I don't remember what I said.
Right.
Oh, here, yes, I do. So on your PowerPoint, so chapter or the pre-test screening PowerPoint, okay, you need to know the risk stratification or the, what did I tell you guys? Oh no, that's not what it was. You guys need to know the coronary heart disease risk factors. Do you need me to go over that again? Because it's not on your slides.
Please.
Yep, okay, all right, hold on. So remember we got age, okay? So 45 for men and higher and older, 55 for women, okay? So that's your age. All right, another risk factor is sex. So if you're a male, you are at higher risk than a female. Family history. So that's a 1st-degree relative that has something like diabetes, heart disease, anything along those lines. So your 1st-degree relatives are your mom and dad or brother, sister. So if any of those actually have a risk factor, that means you are at a higher risk factor. Okay, so then that's your risk factor. Okay, if anybody has diabetes, that's a risk factor. Obesity. Okay, so this is where those other numbers come into play. So if you have a BMI, which is your body mass index, okay, a BMI 30 or greater, you are considered obese. Okay, I'll tell you that because it's going to be in your case study. Okay, Then we have hypertension. Remember, hypertension is high, or we're talking about blood pressure. Okay, so what I want you guys to concentrate on, anything 129 over 80 to 89 or higher is going to be hypertension. Okay, if you are 140 over 90 or higher, you are high blood pressure. Okay, any questions on those numbers? No? Okay, and then the last risk factor is your cholesterol. Okay, so LDL, remember the bad cholesterol. If you have a number 130 or higher, it's bad. Okay, so you want it to stay at 130 or lower. HDL is your good cholesterol. So if it is below 60, that's bad. You want your good cholesterol to be 60 or above. All right, and then if we add those two numbers together, if your total cholesterol number is 200 or greater, or is greater than 200, I'm sorry, then that means you have high cholesterol. Okay, those are the heart risk factors. Any other questions on anything I just went over whatsoever? Okay, so just reminders before you guys sign off. Remember your lab, the new one that I assigned and the one last week, it's all lab 2, is due Sunday by midnight. Okay, so you have until Sunday because I want you guys to focus on your exam. Okay, look over these 2 videos that I put up. Okay, you can stop and pause it at any time, so you can literally go through and write things down. Okay, and then if you have any other questions whatsoever, oh, I'm sorry, go over your lab as well that I assigned today that we went over. Those questions are going to be basically the same questions that are going to be on your case study. Okay, so if you know how to answer these questions, or you know where the things you need to know for those questions, you'll be just fine. Okay, any questions before the exam, text me, email me, we can set up a Zoom, or we can meet a little bit before the exam to go over it. Okay,
I do got one more question.
yes.
Is this calculator good enough?
Yes, it is. As long as you guys can square a number and take the square root, you're good. That's the craziest functions that it needs. It does not need to be like a graphing calculator or anything along those lines. Okay. All right. If you guys have questions, let me know. All right. I'll stick around for a few minutes after if you do have questions. Otherwise, you guys will be just fine on your exam. Show up Wednesday on time. Okay. So you have the full time with your calculator. I will have all the exams for you. Okay. Have a good rest of your day. And again, as always, just let me know if you guys have any questions. Okay.
See you, Coach K. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
You still here?
Yep.
Oh, so standard deviation. So last year I took this class, so I know how to do most of this stuff already. I'll tell you, but I dropped it after like the 3rd exam because that's when it started getting rough. But so for the standard deviation, the n-1, you just do the number of.
So the number of actual subjects
the number
that
of
you
subjects
have minus
minus
1. Yep.
And then you divide that by what?
Then, okay, so you got those values that you squared at the end. So that last column, you're gonna add all those up, okay? And so then that'll be your top number.
Oh, so it's gonna be 0.0081
Yep.
divided by 5.
And you're gonna take the n-1, and then you're gonna divide that sum value of the squared numbers by that number.
Right, yeah, I remember now. Okay, I
Yeah.
remember. All right, that's
You
it.
should be okay with it. If you have questions, just ask me.
Yeah, I took this. I passed the first exam. I passed the second exam. Then when I got to the 3rd exam, that's when I was like, yeah, this is tough. Because we're going to start getting into the Excel calculator too, right?
Yeah, well, if we do Excel, we might I don't technically have to do the Excel stuff. So if we can get in class a little bit more, maybe we'll go over the Excel. Otherwise, I'm not too worried about it. I'd rather you guys know how to do things like written out. But I mean,
Right,
we'll
right.
eventually go over how to like put the graphs and stuff together, but I'm not too worried about that this second.
Right.
So
Okay.
just because you did it last semester doesn't necessarily mean you're going to do the exact same thing.
Okay.
Just because Professor Stone probably did it different than I did anyways. But
Yep.
all right,
All right, that's
let
good.
me know if
Thank
you have
you.
other questions. Okay, Jalen?
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.